The suicide amongst the youngsters is desperate, unbelievable. A little while, I heard, 10 years ago, maybe I remember hearing, in Switzerland, suicide was the second most numerical cause of deaths amongst young people. The highest cause was car accidents. Now I've heard, I forget for which country, suicide is taking over from car accidents. More youngsters kill themselves, die by suicide than die by car accidents. Unbelievable. And of course many car accidents may be a disguised suicide. They don't have an accident on the road, they drive themselves, they drive the car into a tree. It's horrible. Just horrible. In the Summa, St. Thomas Aquinas says that youth is the time of hope. It's not the time of hopelessness. On the contrary, it's the time of hope. And then the suicide, for the youngsters to commit suicide like with the freaks, it's dreadful. Just dreadful. Why do they do it? Because they're given nothing to live for and nothing to hope for. The adults don't give the youngsters any truth. The youngsters the adults tell the youngsters in these supposed universities that their minds are incapable of knowing reality. And so John Lennon draws the conclusion. Nothing is real, nothing to get hung about. Strawberry fields forever. That's it. That's John Lennon. So John Lennon is drawing the consequences of this stupid, sick, treacherous education that is being given to the young. And the logical consequence of that, I mean, have you ever listened to Pink Floyd's Wall? The Wall, is the first 12 songs are Mother is no good, Father's run away and is no use, School is, just don't mention it, We don't need no education, Teachers leave us kids alone, The girlfriend is a washout because I beat her up and then for some reason she wants to get away from me. And I don't want her to get away from me and I say come back, and then she doesn't want to come back because I beat her up again. So the girlfriend is no good. In conclusion, and I think it's song number 12, Goodbye Cruel World. I'll kill myself. And numbers of children, youngsters have listened to those rock songs and the conclusion is they can kill themselves. Pink Floyd hasn't killed himself, he's making good money. What's it, Ken, what's his name? Pink Floyd is not the man's actual name, but it's very interesting, The Wall. It's very interesting to listen, to read the words of pop music, full of suicide. These poor youngsters are desperate. Well, the rock musicians are not so desperate because they're making a good living. Although Kurt Cobain blew his brains out, shotgun in his mouth and just blew his head off. And if you read his words, they're just chaos. If you're going to be teaching the young, it's well worth listening. Find out what their rock groups are. Find out what their favourite rock groups are, and then get the disc and look at the words and listen to the music.
It's unbreakable, so a lot of them are sort of goths or emos, and there's a lot of self-harming going on amongst you. They cut themselves. Yeah. It's just sick.
But they've not been given anything else. They've not been. The youth are betrayed. St. John Fisher said the fort has been betrayed even of those that should have defended it. That was the betrayal of the clergy. The clergy betrayed, and Henry VIII did his thing. And St. Thomas More said the clergy were lacking in grace. They undoubtedly weren't praying enough. The grace wasn't there. And therefore the clergy betrayed and the whole country was betrayed. And today the adults are betraying. The men are betraying the women because the men should be leading the women. 3 L's. Listen, love, and lead. Listen to the women. Listen to your wife. Listen. Love her. That's most important of all. Teaspoonful of affection and she's good for another 200 miles. It's true. It's true. They run on love. You'll never understand them. You don't need to understand them. But you do need to love them because that's what they run on. We men don't run on love, we run on ego. So a smart woman looks after her husband's ego. Oh, darling, you are the greatest. You are my hero. I like that. I don't need a mistress. This is all I need. But if a wife makes her husband look and feel small, he will look for some other woman who will look up to him. A man needs to be looked up to. St. Paul says, it's scripture, it's not just my subjective dreaming. St. Paul says, husbands, love your wives and do not be bitter towards them. Because that's what they need. Wives, obey your husbands. And for a wife to obey her husband, the husband needs above all to show that he's obeying God. Because a wife can respect a husband who obeys somebody higher than him. As I said the other day, if the husband refuses to obey above him, why should the wife obey the husband?